Welcome to Combat Chatter, a Star Wars The Old Republic podcast, brought to you by RepublicTrooper.com. Combat Chatter covers the latest hot topics and breaking news surrounding Star Wars The Old Republic, BioWare, and the greater Tor community.
Alright, what's up everyone? Happy 2012 to all of you out there listening to us today. And yes, you are listening to Combat Chatter, the official podcast of RepublicTrooper.com. I am your host, Andy at Republic Trooper, and it's good to be back doing the show. We took some time off over the holidays, so we haven't done a show in about a month. And as usual, tonight I'm joined by Dave and Mike from Republic Trooper, as well as some new faces to the RT team. Vicky and Adam, also known as Fiducia and Dunick, are here with us tonight as well. So Happy New Year to everyone on the show. Thanks for hanging out with us, and what's going on?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, troopers.
Happy 2012 and a brand new year of Tor.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So speaking of Tor, I guess we could say what's been going on in the last month. Let's see. Let's go way back. We had a beta weekend, and then we had early game access, and oh yeah, the whole game launched. So how has it been going with all you guys with early game access and launch week? What were your guys' thoughts on that kind of stuff?
Well, early game access was incredible. At least for me. I had the wonderful fortune of my roommate and my fiance had off that entire week, and so did I. So we all just hung out, made a group of troopers, and grouped from level 1 to mid-20s, and it was phenomenal. Lots and lots of fun.
Did you get in on a first day?
Yes.
Nice.
Actually, I'm sorry. I was day 2 on the first invitation. But by the time my fiance got up here and my roommate got in, it was Friday. So we didn't actually get to start grouping until Friday afternoon.
Nice. Vicky, it looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, you lucky stiff for having that whole week off.
I planned for it.
See, that's my
I
thing.
didn't have vacation time.
Neither did I. I didn't take any vacation time, and I was so busy with like family time. Like I'm only like I'm getting close to 50. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near close to 50 at all.
The way you act, I thought it was 60. Yeah. Oh, you're not talking age. Oh, a character level.
Was that a dig at me? Like, I was like, was that
maybe?
Funny?
That was Dave's attempt at a slam.
I guess. How about
who is he slamming for me?
I don't know. I think I couldn't tell if he was slamming Vicky or if he was slamming me.
I was poking at Andy a little bit.
Oh,
just
okay.
for fun, because he's so laid back.
That deserves a soundboard.
Yeah, exactly right. Where's my applause? We'll give you some applause for that.
How about first step fail of the podcast?
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Adam? What was your launch week like for?
Well, actually, I was one of the so-called Decemberists, the group of people who pre-ordered way too late, with the procrastinators. So I spent most of the week watching everybody else get into EGA. But I knew, I was able to remain patient for the vast majority of it. I knew that their idea of a staggered access was a great idea, so we all weren't funneled in to the same place at the same time. Because I don't know about you guys, but I was there for the night of the launch of the Burning Crusade expansion, World of Warcraft.
Oh yeah,
and that was insane. That was like every person on the server was shoved into Hellfire Peninsula all at once, and it was just a nightmare. So I'm glad that they did staggered access. They added 2 days to the original 5, which is more than generous. Nobody expected that at all.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So that was awesome. But I'll say this though: once again, I think that the weak link in the chain, the strong BioWare chain, is their communication policy, and they played it a bit too close to their chest when it comes to, like, they knew when they would release, they could give people a little bit more information than they did, basically, and that they just have this habit of playing it like a poker match, like playing their cards really close to their chest, and maybe that made sense in a pre-launch environment, but post-launch, I think they can relax, they've had a good launch, BioWare, like you can unclench now.
That's a good point, because I kept telling, a lot of the guys here and guys in my guild, I pre-ordered the day they announced pre-orders. So I'm expecting my email day of, I think I'm a West Coast guy, so I think I could gain access like at 4 a.m. or whatever it was on the 15th or the 13th, or I forget the exact day now. I get up at 6 a.m., I check my email. I don't have an email from BioWare, and I'm like bummed. I'm like, oh man. So me and Dave are talking on Vent or whatever, and he's like, just try and log into the client and I log in and I have full access to the game. I actually never got my invitation email to early access, and I agree with you. I think if they had a better communication policy, like, hey, you're going to go on Tuesday, you're going to go on Wednesday, and let people plan it out a little bit, that might have helped, you know?
I understand what their plan was with that, and I think it actually worked out the way they wanted to. I mean, it might have ruffled a few feathers, understandably, but I mean, to keep everything in light, over the short term of EGA, BioWare is probably one of the best studios as far as communicating overall, like just information about their games in general. Like,
I agree with that.
Like they blow away every other studio, and I hate to say it, the other big one they're against, they put Blizzard to shame. Like Blizzard needs like marriage counseling to be able to talk to its spouse.
Exactly.
Where BioWare is like at the bar every night, drunk, just talking to everybody and their brother. They said long before launch that they had an aggressive post-launch plan, and within days, like 2 days of that, they're like, hey, not only are we going to keep up with that, and not only are we going to come out with stuff in January, but we're coming out with this and this and this and this and this. So 1 month in, they're already hitting us with an entire new world with a new dungeon, 3 new raid bosses, guild banks, etc. So
Guild banks.
Yep.
Booyah!
Yeah, Guild Bank. They actually mentioned the Guild Bank. That's a good point, because I think it was on the 15th or maybe the 16th. Like, it was a couple days after early game access was like really going smoothly, and there are already like hundreds of thousands of people in the game. James Olin made an update. It might have even been full launch day, and he kind of highlighted a bunch of things that they're working on. And Guild Banks, he said, were like a top priority. Yeah. So.
And that's what I'm talking. That's the update
soon.
I'm talking about.
Right.
The one where he, and they not only said, it wasn't like one of those quick like, hey, we're telling massively a couple things off the cuff. They made an actual post, an official post on their site, so it's still up there to find. You don't have to dig through some. Hey, James Olin told somebody a month ago in a random quick interview that this was coming.
Oh yeah, no, they made it like a news item. That's actually one thing I liked with the launch. They kind of changed the forums a little bit. I guess now the Friday updates are gone, so if you don't exactly know how to get news, just click on the community tab, and there's like 3 big giant hot news topics. Sometimes it's patch notes, sometimes it's an update from James Olin or something like that. It's a really good way to get news on TOR. But kind of back to just the launch in general. I've been playing MMOs for 10 years. I know a lot of you guys have been longer. Dude, that was hands down the smoothest MMO launch I've ever been through.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, best MMO launch ever, period.
The only one that was as good as that, which is funny because I didn't even realize this because he'd mentioned it a little while ago. I think it was on the Reddit AMA. Stephen Reed worked on City of Heroes, and when people asked me before this what the smoothest launch I'd ever been in an MMO prior to Star Wars, it was actually City of Heroes.
When I was on Rift, that was the smoothest launch. Tor was a good close second, but I still think Rift had it beat. But the only reason I think is because it had a much smaller subscription base.
That's a good point. I heard Rift was good. I actually wasn't a Rift player at the time. I was in my anti-MMO phase, so I had no active subscriptions, waiting for TOR to come out. And I was getting ready to play the Rift, but I missed the launch, and I knew friends that were 2 months in, and they were like, I'm kind of already like losing the taste. But I did hear that their launch was good too.
Yeah, it was. I've been on multiple MMO launches. Notably Star Wars Galaxies, WoW, The Matrix Online, and EverQuest 2, but I think that Rift was by far the smoothest launch. I think Tor was the biggest, most organized launch that I've seen. So it's hard for me to really compare those two, to be honest with you.
I'll just add that 2 ex-guildies who long ago quit my WoW guild and then played Rift are now came back like out of nowhere and are now playing SW Tor.
I've been seeing that a lot. I have a lot of friends who were like me. They played WoW they played Galaxies before WoW and EverQuest before Galaxies and on and on and on. And then they played WoW 7 years, and they just got tired and bored and burned out and switched to console games where, you know, a lot of these guys are married now with families and stuff, so they don't have all this free time, and they can maybe play more, you know, like in a 30-minute burst as opposed to like a 3-hour play session. And they just kind of went to Xbox and, you know, PlayStation and things like that, and they're all back in Tor now playing. And oh, go ahead.
No, that's the cool thing about Tor, though, is you can just play it for a couple hours. Like, even before we got on here, I just ran a couple space missions, got XP, had fun, and now I'm doing this. You know, it's really very well set up for a casual player versus a hardcore player.
Oh, I totally agree, because that's definitely me now, right? Like, I'm super active, you know, away from the computer and you know, all kinds of stuff going on, and I don't have the time that I used to have when I was like a hardcore raider. So I only really get like a couple of nights a week to actually to play like at any given length. I love that I can log into the game and do like space dailies or maybe quest for like an hour and still kind of feel like I'm getting stuff accomplished.
Right.
They've done a really, really good job with that. And I'll tell you what, too, for people out there, if you're not into space combat and you think it sucks or you don't like it, at least...
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It is a lot more fun than I expected, but B, dude, you get gnarly XP out of your space dailies. You need to do every single one that's green or above every day. You'll level so fast, and you'll get tons of cash out of it, too.
Amen.
Yeah.
Until you get to the impossible sector.
And I passed Impossible Sector first time. That the only,
oh, Nerd War.
the only one I came close to failing was actually the Kaylee, the Kaylee station protection. The good thing about Tor, and I'm going to go back to the giant elephant in the MMO room, and that is that exactly what you guys said. You can put a couple hours in, and I think most MMOs, with a few exceptions, realize that today. It has what WoW had in the early days. You can put in short amounts of time, but at the end game, the hardcore is hardcore. Like, the hard mode flashpoints are much more akin to early heroics as opposed to the way heroics currently are. Basically, it has that balance of challenging content for those who want it and easier content. Now, let's hope they don't go in the same direction that Blizzard did and decide, hey, the guys who play 30 minutes to an hour a day want to be able to have everything the people who play, 4 or 5 hours a day have.
Oh, I really hope they don't do that, because that in my opinion is what ruined WoW. Like, I like that it's challenging, and because of my playstyle, like, there's a lot of heroic quests and stuff that I either have to go back and do with a companion once I've pretty much out-leveled them, or B, I have to like wait and kind of plan a group and schedule time and almost make it like an instance run where it's like, hey guys, let's log on at 8 o'clock tonight. I love that it's challenging, and that's the whole point of an MMO, man. If you put in 100 hours into it, you get all the hardcore shit that comes out of it. If you put in 10 hours, you're not going to be as badass as the 100-hour guy. You know what I mean?
And I'm going to take a chance here, and I don't mean to offend anyone, and if I do, I'm sorry. But it's just like anything else in life. No, I'm being sincere about that. It's like anything else in life. You get out what you put in. If you put in 40 hours a week at work, and you're wondering why you're not making as much as your boss, who's been there twice as long and put in 60 hours a week for most of his career, then there's a breakdown in your thought process of how you're looking at something. People who play more do get more in the game, but you're spending less time doing this, so you're spending more time getting other things out of life that they're not getting. So just remember that before you say, hey, I play, 1 or 2 hours at a time. That's not enough for me to get, stuff that takes 4 or 5 hours at a pop.
I really needed some nice piano background music for that there. No, go ahead, Adam. What were you going to say?
Well, there's certainly no doubt that this game attracts, at least in my opinion, both casual and hardcore players, which is one of the reasons for WoW's great success, is that it attracted both for the longest time. And this game kind of does the same. Like, you can spend 3-4 hours on a hard mode content, or you can spend an hour and just play space combat, do some crafting. So go do a heroic with a buddy. It's got something for everybody, this game.
No, I agree. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, and over the past 2 weeks, I have done both in early game and then early launch. me and my group here, we hardcore played for, I mean, hours upon hours a day. And then, the past, I would say the past 5 days, I had a lot less time back to work and all that stuff. And it's still fun, even if I'm only playing for 2 hours or a half an hour here and there, and I get just as much out of it. It's different. You get different rewards and all that different and that kind of thing, but it's still rewarding when you play a little bit or you play a whole lot.
Yeah, so that leads us to the next topic, kind of, which is that TOR is becoming the fastest growing subscription-based MMO in history. And I think it only took 2 or 3 days, and I'm pretty sure that was because of the grace period when that people had to actually register their subscriptions. But it took 2 or 3 days. They already broke the 1 million subscriber mark. I'm pretty sure it was before Friday of launch week. So I think that's pretty badass too, that the game is making video game history. I know a lot of gamers out there are already, being a little bit cynical, and they're like, they're like, yeah, hey, that's cool, but we'll see where it is in 3 months, or we'll see where it is in a year, and all that stuff. And while I agree and understand that side, at the same time, I think people need to give credit where credit is due. I mean, they had the largest MMO launch ever, one of the smoothest MMO launches ever. They're the fastest subscription growing game in history. I mean, those are some pretty good accolades for a game that's only been out for 3 weeks.
Just like James Olin said, and this is actually really reassuring. He said, unlike other studios who, once their game's rolling, they take their team off, their vet team off, and move it to a new project, and then have a newer team keep that MMO moving forward. They're keeping their vet team, including James himself. I mean, like he said, he goes, I did Baldur's Gate until that was done, and then I went right onto Baldur's Gate 2, and then I went on to Neverwinter Nights, and he went through the whole thing. He's like, and now SWOTR's out. He's like, and it will be SWOTR, and more SWOTR for the years to come. And if the veterans at BioWare fail, that's literally their big names, the people who have made this company over a decade plus. So I have a lot of faith. Let's just put it that way. Vader would not find my faith or lack of disturbing.
Vicky was going to say something.
I was, and now I can't remember what I was going to say. So carry on.
I'm sure it was really, really, really good too.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's going to be, moving.
And you know what, Dave? What I think is, I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. That's totally okay. What about you, Adam or Mike? What do you guys think?
The thing that I keep thinking about with the whole fastest growing subscription is that day where they told us we had to put the subscription in and the queue for the website.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Do you remember that?
Oh, dude, the front door is loading or whatever it was. You had to wait like 60 seconds just to hit the login screen.
I got my roommate knocked on my door to wake me up, and he's like, dude, there's a line for the website. I'm like, what? He's like, you might want to log in.
That's pretty funny. That's a good point, because I had completely forgotten about that. And me and Dave were actually talking about it on Vent or on the phone or something. And he goes to something. He's like, "What the hell?" And I go, "What's up?" And he's like, "Dude, I'm in line for the website." That's how much traffic they're getting. So I'm curious to see when they're actually going to release more numbers, because the way the million subscriber mark kind of hit was, EA released a press release, and they did it it was very corporatized, right? It wasn't like a little news blurb somewhere. It was like, I got a press release in my mail informing me that they had broken some badass record. What I'd like to see is a more informal thing where, like, Stephen Reed maybe tweets in another few weeks when it's like been out for 30 days, like, hey, we broke 2.5 million people, and then let the other news sites that are out there in the Tor community kind of run with it and editorialize on their own. But
it seems to me that almost BioWare doesn't seem to like to brag.
Yeah, it was EA. It was EA. It wasn't BioWare that was doing it.
Yeah, it's just funny because it's like, people, we always say, like, where's the numbers? But BioWare almost seems to be like, we'll tell you about the stuff that you're interested in. And I know that we're interested in the numbers, but it's kind of funny how a lot of companies are like, we did this really amazing thing. And BioWare has always seemed to me to be the ones who go, we're going to do this really amazing thing. What do you guys think of it? And
right.
That's what we get in the email. So
just kind of an informal poll amongst us. How many people actually did the 6-month subscription?
That'd be me.
I did.
Okay,
I
so
honestly don't remember.
okay, so Vicky's still in brain fart mode. We'll just leave her there.
I am.
No, so Dave and Mike did. I did. Adam, what about you?
The 2 months.
Okay, so you did 2 months. So I look at it like, I mean, there's what? There's 5 of us, so 3 of 5. If you could apply that to the million, you're talking what, like, over 500,000 people. I mean, gave them what, $80 on day one. So they raked in some cash. But kind of to your point, I don't see them really bragging about it. They know that it's big. They know that they're making money. The press release I was referring to actually came from EA, who's been, EA is going to look at them more as like a numbers game, right? Because EA is a public company and they have investor calls and all that kind of stuff. I'm just curious to see how it goes in like 3 to 6 months. Like a lot of people said, I think it's really cool that they had this great launch week and they broke 1 million players and all that good stuff. But in 3 months, when they say, hey, we have 2 million players or 1.5 million players, like, I'm curious to see how long it's going to take for people to actually go, wow, that's cool, instead of, well, we'll see where they are in a year. Well, we'll see where they are in 2 years. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like they deserve some credit back, I guess.
I agree. The other thing I've been hearing is, well, of course there's going to be a lot of people. It's Star Wars. Beyond that, it's not only Star Wars, it's an awesome game. The quality of the game far surpasses anything I've played. I mean, it could be Transformers or something, and a game that at this level, and I think I'd still want to play it. But it's Star Wars, and I'm happy with that.
Well, and that's a good point, is I think a lot of people forget too, and I mean, I was kind of doing this, is, WoW really set the bar high, but if you remember WoW's launch week, dude, the game was horrible. I mean, if you compare WoW at launch day to TOR at launch day, TOR is in such a better class of like day one capabilities and what's in the game and the scope of the game and how large it is and features and this and that. If you compare TOR to WoW as it is right now today, obviously WoW's way ahead because it's had 10 years of development work, and this game's on its launch month. So I think a lot of people that make the WoW TOR comparison are looking at it as, well, I play WoW today and I play TOR today, and therefore WoW has like better features or this or that. But I think in 6 months or a year, I think TOR is going to be right there with them, if not ahead. And I predict a 2 to 3 million ish subscriber base. That's kind of what I think. I don't think they're going to make WoW lose the number one spot, but I think they're going to be some very serious competition.
It was, I mean, BioWare is a couple years behind Blizzard, but not many, and they have a long pedigree of all hits, just like Blizzard has had. They launched a game very solid, and in the end, they wanted to do one thing very specific. They said, we know how to make good games. All right, we've done that before. What we haven't done is an MMO and provided the service for an MMO. We want to make sure we do that well. And the first thing in that whole chain was making sure their launch was smooth. And what did they do? They provided a launch that was one of the best and noticeably better than WoW's was. So I think they really came in on that.
But my take on this, on the full fastest quote-unquote MMO thing, I mean, after, 10 years of reading MMO PR releases, I'm a cynic, and who can blame me, really? These initial reports after an MMO launched are always spun to the best, of their ability. PR departments will always throw you curveball on this. They never really give you the full numbers. Having said that, it's great news for the game, but we kind of expected this, didn't we? I mean, 900,000, 1 million pre-orders, and they say, oh, lo and behold, we have 1 million people buying the game on day one. Okay, well, we kind of expected that. So yeah, really the $64,000 question is, will these subs be around at the 3 month, 6 month, 12-month mark, and will those totals be added? Because no MMO starts off with like 10 million subscribers. WoW started off with about 600,000 or something like that and grew to 12 million. So 1 million, if you can build from there, is obviously an extremely healthy start. That's more than enough money profit for them to reinvest back into the game. And BioWare, I think other games, like with EA, you might be a bit suspect that they might just take the money and run. But I think BioWare will pretty much reinvest every single penny they have right back into because they understand that they got to reinvest in the game, keep it going to keep the subs going. So we'll see. It's an open question. Jury's still out.
Yeah, I agree, and but I believe in Bioware, and I believe in what they take as their brand. Like they took Mass Effect when Mass Effect became really big, and they improved it. Some argued not greatly in Mass Effect 2, but they keep adapting, they keep going with it. So I don't think they're ever going to give up on a game. And just by the press releases that they've given so far on what they want to add to the game, post-launch, they definitely are sticking with it, and are definitely paying attention, which is just awesome. And after this first few weeks of playing, I'm definitely in for the long haul, without question.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, based off of I mean, and again, I'm not 50 yet, so there's a lot of people who have, gone through a lot more content than I have, but I could see myself playing the game as it stands right now for at least a year, if not more. And I haven't even done so much of the game. The game's so huge. Like I haven't even done a whole lot of PvP. I haven't raided yet. I've only done several instances. I haven't even gotten to a point to do it like any of the hard level stuff. So I definitely see it having longevity. What I'm kind of curious to see is kind of like to Adam's point, he was on the flip side of the coin was, WoW, I think, had something like 500,000 at launch, and TOR has like 1 million in over 7 or 8 years. WoW grew to like 12 million. Well, over how many years will it take for TOR for people to go, hey, the game's awesome, or I'm a huge fan? It just seems like right now, the only way people seem to consider it a success is if it beats WoW in the numbers, which I don't personally think that it's ever going to do. I don't know. That's just maybe how I feel about it. Like I think people can call it a success for when it's actually being successful, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, one thing that EA has said a couple times now is that they actually put numbers down. They said previous to launch and then after launch that at 500,000 subscribers, we're profitable. Like we're noticeably profitable. Anything above that just increases the profit margin. So they'd actually have to not only not float and pull the status quo from their launch numbers, they'd have to actually lose a large percentage of their launch numbers to drop below a profit margin. While the game might not be the greatest game ever, and I'm not saying that as my opinion, I think the game is one of the best MMOs ever made, certainly so far. It would have to go in a direction way, way, way different than it already is, I think, for it to lose those numbers in less than 3 or 4 years. So I think they're going to see profits for at least 3 or 4 years unless they do something very radical, which I doubt they'll do.
So yeah, that's a good point, but not to radically change the topic here, guys, but we want to discuss some other stuff going on with Republic Trooper. So I'm going to hand it over here to Dave to talk about our most recent mess hall poll that we did with the community. So Dave, why don't you tell us what was going on with that?
It was almost a month ago now since we skipped the holiday one. We put out a mess hall asking people what they think about add-ons, since that's another hot topic for MMOs, especially people coming from WoW who are used to such an add-on rich environment. And the responses actually were interesting. Out of 5 choices running the gamut from basically absolutely not to yes in every aspect of the game, the most common with 63% of our votes was that add-ons are useful in MMOs for some things, but should be limited so as not to cause game imbalance. In second place was, at 27%, add-ons are very good for an MMO. They should be allowed freely with few exceptions. And in third place, at 10%, was add-ons should be heavily restricted in an MMO. Now note, the 2 choices that had 0 votes where add-ons are great, they should be allowed for every aspect of the game, which was one end of the spectrum, and add-ons should absolutely not be allowed in my MMO, which is the other end of the spectrum. So people took the moderate road, leaning towards add-ons being generally useful in the game.
Well, I chose, add-ons are very good for an MMO. They should be allowed freely with few exceptions. And those exceptions are, game breaking, ones that give people massive advantages. And usually devs are pretty good at determining what's what and use the banhammer appropriately. But in my opinion about add-ons generally, it's like they're like any tool. They're like fire. I mean, you know you can use fire to cook your food and keep you warm, but it can also burn your house down. So
That's a funny
That is a
analogy.
great analogy.
I like
Yeah,
it.
that
Yeah,
is.
that's awesome.
Fire good, add-ons bad.
Yeah,
I mean, like take Recount. There's two sides on like the Recount issue. Recount being, of course, for those of you who've never played World of Warcraft, it's a combat log add-on or mod to the
DPS
game.
meters,
Tells you,
right?
gives you more numbers than you could ever possibly imagine on every aspect of the game, pretty much. So it's a very, very powerful, very useful tool. But there's something called that you might want to call the tyranny of Recount, where if you run with a group with a couple maybe elitist type players, hardcore players, they'll have Recount running, and they'll point out if you're like 0.7% off the DPS that you should be doing, then you will hear of it, and they'll use Recount as a tool to beat you with. And I mean, again, don't blame Recount, blame the elitist jerk who's doing this to you. And there'll always be jerks out there. What can you do? Do you ban Recount? I don't know. I think it's a great tool, and it should be something like it should be in Tor. And if people abuse it, well, that's what ignore is for, right?
I'm kind of on the same wavelength, although I lean much more heavily towards the uh, don't want, do not want add-ons in the game. But I also come from games that had no add-ons, and things like MXO and EverQuest and all of that. And so I'm not used to them, as most people are. And I got into PvP pretty heavily on Rift, and I remember people with severely unfair advantages, but they did a really good job of keeping most things down. And I just fear that those type of add-ons just like completely overpowering certain aspects of the game. But as long as the devs keep a good eye on it, I think they can be good. I know that there are definitely aspects of the UI now which I totally would love an add-on for. So I guess I'm leaning more and more into towards the middle nowadays.
Something else to consider about add-ons is that they often paper over the cracks in a game. They'll often make up for the mistakes that a dev has made, or just features that are too lazy to really implement. I never really fully appreciated this until I was reading the SW Tour official forums one night, and some guy made a post about UI and add-on issues, about what he thinks should be added to the game. Same thing we're discussing here. It's a pretty short, well thought out post, and a couple of people said that, myself included. But then other people were like, "Hey, aren't you the guy who did those mods in World of Warcraft?" Personally, I hadn't heard what mods he'd done, but about half a dozen people started chiming in and said, "Oh yeah, hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate you doing those mods for World of Warcraft." And his reply was kind of almost shocking. He said that I'm done with making mods, done making mods for Blizzard. They don't appreciate the work that I've done. They basically they'll steal your work if they can, and if they buy you out when they can't, the payout isn't as much as people might think. And generally speaking, he said that he was I'm paraphrasing him, but it's almost like a quote, that he was tired of fixing Blizzard's game for them for free, basically, that he was done, and he was hoping that the BioWare with Tor will do maybe more things in-house, and maybe build a game where mods are really not required. The game's good enough that you don't need mods to make it work fully. Because let's face it, in World of Warcraft, it got to a point where if you did not have mods, you could not play the game at a certain level.
I agree with that.
Well, there's also and we've talked about this. A lot of our older members. There's also, including, I'll say, a friend of mine who works at a certain company, who rhymes with lizard, right, Andy? Anyways.
Yeah, gizzard.
Yeah, gizzard. Anyways, see, it depends, because that's what a lot of us talk about. I like mods that help you, like exactly what Mike's talking about. Like, I want a mod for my trooper that'll just put my cooldowns a little bit higher so I can see them and don't have to look down as much. I just basically want the UI to be more flexible. But then there's mods that people thought became so integral to the game, and it basically made people worse players, and they thought it was necessary. Like, for example, one of them was decursive. Back in the day, basically it let people hit one button to remove curses because they couldn't get good enough to individually click and watch debuffs. So it depends. It depends how it is. If it's something that helps you play the game, like increases the ability to use what's in the game already, I support it. If it's something that kind of plays the game for you, I don't want it.
I was just gonna say real quick, kind of to move on, but I kind of agree with Dave too. Is like when I played WoW, I mean there were certain add-ons that I ran like for raiding and things like that, like deadly boss mods or whatever. But most of my mods were utility style stuff, like making my inventory bag a single block and Titan panels so I could see my gold and my ping and my location all at one time. Like they weren't like, game changing like cheating mods, I guess you would call them. I don't even know the right way to call them. BioWare has pretty much said they want to do it, but they're not sure how they want to implement it yet. And I have a feeling that it's probably going to be relatively light. I do not think it's going to be near as open as what Blizzard did with Warcraft. I don't know. That's just my kind of 2 cents, kind of to what Dunnock was saying about people on the TOR forums, wondering about, are they essentially going to like outsource developers for free to build their game for them? And I don't see them doing that.
Yeah, a game with that has no mods and that the everything is completely closed system is, if that's one extreme, and WoW is the other extreme. Yeah, BioWare I think is trying to plot some middle course, and no doubt that's going to take them time because it is a tricky. And I would say let's give them the benefit of the doubt. This is something you want to get right. And so if they need more time to get it right, then so be it.
Yeah, I agree. And, while we're on the topic of mods, that kind of brings us to our next topic, which was in our latest Letters from the Troops column, a bunch of the RT staff were opining about UI and improvements that could be made to the UI. What are your guys' thoughts about some of the UI issues or some of the complaints that you've heard out there about the UI?
There's one thing that I've noticed, and normally I'm very easygoing about what the game presents me. I don't tend to think too far outside the box.
Right.
So if I notice something, it's got to be big. When I bring up my inventory, right, and I'm hovering over a piece of equipment for my companion, and I open my character screen and I click on my companion. So it's my companion in my inventory. And I hover over that piece of equipment for my companion. It shows the comparative piece of equipment that I'm wearing. And I hate that.
I've noticed that too. And my biggest pet peeve, I think, is how intrusive the companion returning from a mission window is, especially if you're at the auction house. If you're at the auction house and you have the AH window open and you have your inventory open and you're like dragging and dropping, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, here comes C2N2 and he's like, hey dude, I'm done with the mission. It closes all your windows except for that mission completed one. Oh my god, that one drives me crazy.
That is so annoying. I was at the auction house just the other day. I was looking very specifically for something. I finally found it. I was about to check the stats on it, and boom, came back, and I had to go search all over again.
You think that's bad? That actually, I think, wiped us last night on one of our heroic Flashpoint attempts. Somebody had a pop-up from a mission, a cruise skill mission being completed, and had to click that and not his heal button or something. The tank died. We wiped and died.
Wow.
So it's like, I don't know, at the extreme.
But isn't that like a new etiquette thing? Please don't send your companions on missions when we're in the middle of a heroic hard mode Flashpoint.
Well,
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but
come up with a rule that says, okay, so if you're joining the raid, no cruise skill
But they
missions.
have game
Vicky,
mechanics
what you don't
around
realize
that, though,
is at high level, those missions run an hour plus. So the guy might send somebody out and then 10 minutes later be like, hey, let's go in this Flashpoint. And,
But I mean, they have game mechanics around that. Like, for example, when you're in, I believe when you're in space combat, if you have a companion return, it doesn't pop it up on your screen. It puts it up in the little pending window. They should do that, like if you're in a Flashpoint or something like that, or even if you're in anything that's like instance, like a war zone.
Or not even in Flashpoint necessarily. Just if I'm fighting a boss.
Right? Yeah.
If I'm fighting a raid boss.
If you're within attack range of a boss.
It's fun. The one day, I think they're mucking around with things because the one day I didn't get a crew skill return. He sent me an email with the material I asked him to go find.
Really? I've never seen that.
He emailed it to me.
they usually do that if there's no room in your inventory, dude. That's not new. That happened in beta.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
My
Oh,
inventory is so
that's
bad.
yeah, that's what that was. I haven't actually had that.
I bet you it was a crafted item, right? It wasn't probably raw materials. I bet
Yeah,
you had them
I think you're
crafting.
right. Yeah.
Yep. If you have him crafting something, and you have no room in your inventory, then he'll pop it into your mail.
Well, that's smart.
You know, something else too that bothers me just a little bit is I get why they do it, but I still find it kind of annoying. Like sometimes I'll open my character window or my companion window and be looking at gear, and I'll have my inventory open first. If I close my inventory but my companion window is still open, it moves its position over to the left, and I don't think it should move. I think it should stay where it is until I close it. You know what I mean? Because it's like I've already opened it, I'm interacting with it in that area. Just because I close a different window, I don't think that the other window should have to move its position.
Yeah, I've
would
noticed
like-
that too. And while I don't think it's, game breaking or awful, it is inconvenient.
Yeah,
I also wish that I could just move the windows.
well, that seems to be the big beef is that people want to reconfigure stuff. Like they don't like where they don't like where the tooltip is, and they don't like how some of their bars are laid out. Like they want to move stuff around. Like Star Wars Galaxies, you could really move stuff around. I mean, it had some limitations, but you could completely move stuff around.
Well, in Rift, the entire UI was bindable, and you could move anything you wanted wherever you wanted.
Yeah, that was a great
And-
addition to that game.
That's what I think people are expecting from this, and honestly, I think that's what they're going to get. Dave, I know you were talking. You had written about what inventory management.
Yeah, for instance, just a lot of the inventory management, like things not stacking, things that do stack, not stacking automatically, like metals and crafting materials. Some things that don't stack, I would make a suggestion do, especially gifts. Gifts are a pain in the butt when they don't stack.
Yeah.
And I almost think there should be a tab for gifts. They at least did do what some games do and some games don't. And I think just like the entire genre keeps adopting the best practices as new games come out, I don't think any game should ever come out again that doesn't have a quest/mission tab for items that are unique to quests and missions. And at least Star Wars has that. So, but truthfully, it doesn't even have to be its own tab. If they made gifts stack and actually moving stuff from cargo hold to inventory back and forth auto stack the way it should, I think that would go a long way towards alleviating a lot of the tedium of inventory management.
At least the stacks are high, like they're 100. So actually, you don't quite need as much bag space as you do maybe in other games. Specifically one, who I won't name, I won't
exactly.
mention.
Yeah. No, I did
but
notice
Who
that.
that's
rhymes
nice.
with ow,
Yeah. Pow.
cow.
Oh man, we digress. It seems that especially kind of in the overall umbrella of like add-ons, a lot of people want to see tweaks made to the UI. BioWare has, from what I've seen, has acknowledged it. They said they're working on stuff in typical BioWare fashion. They hold their cards pretty close to their chest, so they haven't really given specifics. But I do think a lot of the kind of stuff that we were discussing, we're going to see in the game here probably very, very soon. I would expect customizable stuff before, way before they actually allow people to do add-ons and things like that.
It makes me feel good that they're working on it. Like I trust. BioWare has built up a whole lot of trust with me. I trust that when they say they're going to work on something, it's going to get done.
Oh yeah, I agree, because at least they like acknowledge you. You know what I mean? I know with with WoW, there's a lot of comparisons, but that's the other big one. Is people would post on the forums and they would just very rarely would they get a blue response, and they did start hiring a lot more forum mods to help out with that. But I still think kind of what we talked about even earlier in the show is BioWare is a lot more casual and more, I guess, just conversational with their fans as opposed to like a corporation talking to a customer,
Well, I think we also have trouble comparing them because the amount of people that BioWare has to interact with is much smaller. I think that Blizzard did what it could in the beginning, but now that it's got basically another staff working, they have trouble, and I'm hoping that BioWare can continue to manage its community as well as it does now.
That's actually a good point. I think it was Stephen Reed, and I think Dave even pointed me to this, but it was Stephen Reed that said that's why we don't have realm specific forums yet. Is they said they don't have the manpower to moderate it properly. So, they already know that they're undermanned just with the client base that they have right now. So that's actually something that I'd like to see in the game too.
Even with that being said, remember when they were talking about the numbers not long ago? I mean, they hired 400 customer service people just to start with. So that's quite a bit.
They're definitely hiring. It's just, I think kind of to like what Mike was saying is, Blizzard got so big so fast. I don't know if BioWare's going to, if they're already suffering from that, like, they have 1 million or over 1 million or 1.5 million subscribers. Is 400 CSRs enough to keep up with that in a timely fashion kind of thing? And, obviously they don't have enough forum mods for people to do like realm forums and things like that, which I kind of view as a requirement in an MMO. I think it's a little bit of a bummer, especially considering how much BioWare talks about like community, and they don't have realm forums. And, they need, that's the kind of stuff that worries me a little bit. They need to get that stuff.
Well, I'll say this is the crunch time when they're going to get hammered for a few specific reasons. For those who sometimes will take my enthusiasm for a great product as being a fanboy. Here's the other flip side of the coin, because I say it on both sides. They're taking a lot of tickets because of all the bugs. There's not a lot of game-breaking bugs. There's almost none, in fact, but there are a lot of non-game-breaking bugs, and they're getting the same reports about them again and again and again. Like, there's a couple people in our guild who will keep putting in all the minor things they get, and they keep getting back known issue. But think about it. They've got hundreds of thousands of people probably putting those in. So they still have to look at those tickets and send back responses.
Oh yeah, no, I totally hear you, man. I think in another month or two or maybe even 3, a lot of this stuff will be resolved, and we'll have customizable UIs, we'll have realm forums. Who knows? You might even be able to have add-ons in the game. But it's definitely that seems to be like the big weak spot in the game right now, at least from I could see. But yeah, moving on, we got one other little quick topic here that we want to discuss, and it's something that I've been really enjoying a lot. And we had an article go up on republictrooper.com today covering just the basics. We're going to add more to that as time goes on, but it's the crafting system. Have you guys had a lot of time to craft it all in game and spend a lot of time with it? I know I have, and it's pretty badass.
Absolutely. I noticed the crafting thing right from the beginning. I enjoyed it. I'm not a crafter by any means. In any game I've played, I skewed it. I didn't bother. I let my friends do all that stuff for me. Because I'm lazy, and I mostly just want to kill stuff.
Right, yeah.
But this time I started out the game, and I wanted to do some crafting, and I really kind of enjoyed it because it let you kind of almost be almost like a shopper, but at the same time you're making the things that you want to see. And that's pretty neat. And one thing that I really like is that you create an item. Okay, you've created an item, but now you can continue to make it better by making it and devolving it, making it and devolving it, until eventually you get like a relic level item, which takes a lot of resources to make, but that's pretty neat. And also the idea of breaking down items also increases your skill. Is a fantastic option.
Well, that was the thing that I liked the most about it was the reverse engineering side of it, right? So if you craft a green, you can reverse engineer it to learn a blue, and then you can reverse engineer that to learn a purple. And obviously it takes several tries or even sometimes 50 tries to get it. But I didn't even realize this was that one item actually will give you multiple. So like if you reverse engineer a green, you can learn like 4, 5, 6 different flavors of that blue item. And that gets it like really crazy. It's almost like when you, for me to wrap my head around it, because it's like, oh my God, I spent so much time crafting. It's almost like too much now, It's actually a really in-depth crafting system, and I really, really love that your companions do it for you and that you don't have to sit there and watch a status bar. You can still go out and be questing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one other thing that I really liked about this crafting system, and I drove my roommate and my fiance nuts, because they were having trouble affording their speeder by 25. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there with 100,000 credits. I'm like, oh, I'll just send you guys some money. And they're like, what did you do? I'm like, I just took nothing but slicing. And
oh, yeah, slicing.
All I did literally was level up character. Well, I just sliced all the way up to level 400 by I was like mid 20s, and it just brings. It's like gambling.
They
You
just
send out
they just
money.
did a huge
They nerfed
nerf
the
to
hell.
Didn't they nerf the hell out of that?
Yes.
No!
because
Yeah.
of that.
Slicers,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
like I think it was Thursday. It was actually a stealth nerf too. It wasn't in the patch notes, and then later on, they actually publicly made a statement about it. And so, I guess slicing now only has like on average like a 10 to 15% return on investment.
Well,
No, I
something
think
like
it
that.
was. I think it was in the patch notes, Andy.
It wasn't initially because on Twitter people were asking us. They were sending us tweets. They're like, "Dude, can you guys confirm a stealth nerf to slicing?" And I replied back, I'm like, "Hey, I'm not a slicer, but I was just online and some people in our guild were like freaking out." And the guy hit me
Well-
back like an hour later and he goes, "Oh, they just made a post about it," and he sent me the link. So I don't think it initially was.
Well,
You know
I
what?
did notice. I'm sorry, Dave, but I did notice. I was slicing, getting a whole lot of returns. Like I'd send out it cost me 1,100 credits for I don't know level 35 or 40, whatever,
Right.
and it came back with 1,300. I'm like, okay, well that's kind of a crap return, but it's something, and it's still giving you more because otherwise slicing is useless because it's not giving you anything other than credits.
Well, that's the point, and I was actually talking about this to a few folks the other night because they were like, some people broke down the numbers and they're like, oh, you can only make about 6,000 or so an hour with slicing now at high level, and
Oh,
that's from
heavens.
doing
the missions.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. I go, well, yeah, but you have to realize they have to plan for the long term. First of all, there's already several guides out there on how to use your phone, your Android or your Apple phone to send your guys on slicing missions all day long. And we have people in the guild who are at work and they're popping in all day from work on their phones, sending their guys on missions every hour.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
need that app.
I need that app too, dude. I know. What the hell?
Well, guys, I'm sure you read the great write-up on Ask a Jedi, like I tell all our writers to read on a normal basis. So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Of course I know what you're talking about, Dave.
I've read
Um,
that, but I never read about that.
Yeah, they Ask a Jedi has a great guide, and actually they use one app, and there's another app that some people in our guild use. In any case, you have to remember when you can do that on 8 characters, okay, from work, that's like 500,000 credits if you can pop on
That's
every
true.
so often from work with doing nothing. And people are like, this is useless. I'm like, really? Eventually, when you have a ton of high-level characters, if you put slicing on every character, you're going to be making that from work. Oh, and then you're going to come home at night, and you can do it all night long
Well-
again. So, 1 million credits a day for just sending guys out on missions is, I think, more than enough.
I think it's the typical. I mean, everybody knew. Like, not to like drag this out, but it's like everybody knew. If you want to be rich, you take slicing. Like, hands down. Like, I mean, and we're talking before the last week changes, but it's like everybody knew in beta. Dude, I think I was like level 19 in beta on all my characters. I took slicing purely as a moneymaker, and I already had like 90,000 credits or something, and I'm like in the teens. It was just ridiculous. I think what they've done with it is they've tweaked it a little bit and balanced it a little bit more with some of the other trade skills. So like, if you're arms tech or armor mech or artifice or whatever, you're going to make some money, but you're not necessarily going to make a ton.
Well, that's the thing, though. The point is, like you said, Andy, you can make good money if you get the right patterns, but slicing is the only skill you send people out, and you can actually make pure credits without making further. Like every other crafting skill, you have to make something with everything you're getting. You're actually using money until you make a viable product and then sell it. Slicing still brings you pure credits. It
Well,
takes out the middleman, and it is the
Right.
only skill that does that. And that's only on the credit side. You still get rare recipes and stuff that you can sell on the auction house.
Also, I think slicing originally, and actually, there's some other mission skills that also bring you lock boxes, which also
Treasure
give you
hunting
credits.
does, yeah.
I think they were intended. Now, I don't know this, but I think it was originally intended to help you fund your other crafting skills. And that's what I originally started using it for, was to bring me enough credits to afford my other skills. Eventually, my crafting was, I didn't have any. I mean, you run out of money trying to craft all this stuff. So it almost seemed like it was trying to be its own cycle, where you craft, and then meanwhile you send people out on mission skills to earn you some credits to continue crafting in the first place.
Well, yeah, I mean, and not to completely derail the conversation, but kind of back to the original point about crafting in general was I was actually really surprised. Like I actually thought I had a relatively decent understanding of the crafting system, even at early game access. And like, after 2 weeks of playing, and again, I'm not level 50, I'm not like super hardcore, but I've played a lot, I've done a lot of crafting. Dude, it's so deep. Like, I mean, like you said, you can get drops, you can reverse engineer them, you can reverse engineer a green into multiple blues, a blue into multiple purples, and on and on and on. Then there's the item modification system and augmenting and all of this kind of stuff. And there's definitely a lot to learn about the crafting system in the game. And I'm curious to see how they keep kind of balancing it out. I mean, the first big change was the slicing change, but that didn't necessarily affect crafting per se. That was more like mission skills, because I think slicing's a mission skill, right? It's not actually
it's a mission skill. And
right.
In fact, the character I play most, I have 3 mission skills. And because I've got other characters that I've decided I don't want to play as often, but they have their different crafting skills up high enough that I don't want to abandon them anyway.
Right.
So I use them to craft if I need something, and I just have my main character with mission skills, just the fun, getting you companion gifts and slicing to give me some cash, or mission skills or light and dark side points or whatever. And I think there's a lot of different things you can do with crafting, or any of those skills really. Like you can even just be a pure gathering, pure crafting, pure mission skills. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Slicing definitely probably needed some nerfing.
You can't go pure crafting on a single character if that's what you mean. That's the only.
Oh yeah, you can only have one.
Yeah,
right.
That's the only thing that's limited. You can go crazy like mission and
right.
Collection skills, but only limited to one craft. Because that actually got me late in beta. I thought you could take more than one crafting skill too, and I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Actually, I took 3 times. I thought long and hard about what crafting I'm going to deal with, because it is a very deep system and it's kind of intimidating for us to wade into it. But once you get the hang of it, yeah, it is, as Andy said, it is very deep and very complex. So I actually decided what to do was this. I went with actually 3 gathering skills, which you can do. One of them was slicing. I'll tell you that I ended up with 929,000 credits at level 50.
Holy
and
crap, dude.
I'll also tell you that I now have, after only a few days of 50, having switched this to a more traditional layout, I now have cybertech, underworld trading, and scavenging. I kept scavenging, drop slicing, and bio, and sold the mats for some money. But I'm now down to about 300K. And that's because I basically power leveled the other 2 crew skills, and that costs money. The thing about we all should know about crafting is that unless it's slicing, because as Dave said, you get money back, but it can be expensive. So that was another reason I sort of put this off to 50 when I figured I would have more money.
That's a good point. I've heard of a lot of people doing that too, is actually waiting till 50 to really, try and like max out their crafting stuff, because it does cost you a lot. Like, and for me, my character's in the low 30s, but my crew skills are all like in the low 100s, because it started getting too expensive and I wanted to make sure I could afford my speeder and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just kind of getting back into really getting my guys going with crafting. But one other quick note for everybody out there listening, there is a pretty serious bug right now in the crafting system. If you see this, if you hit your N key to bring up your crafting window or your crew skills window, you'll see, yeah, exactly, the fourth one.
It's actually really very easy. It's not a permanent bug, and I tested it. It's exactly how BioWare said it on the forums. If you have any of your other characters actually out on missions and pop onto a different one, it'll show one of those 4th ones. If you log back on and off after multiple characters are done with their skills, they actually disappear.
Right.
They go away again.
The moral of the story is we knew somebody in our guild who saw the 4th crew skill and they clicked the X next to it to delete it, and it actually deleted one of their level 400 crew skills that they had spent like tons of money maxing out. So yeah, if you see a 4th crew skill, just leave it alone. The BioWare's aware of it. They will fix it. Oh yeah, Dunnock. That's a good question, Dunnock. Maybe Dave, you might want to take that real quick. What do you consider to be the best crafting skills for troopers?
Well, I'll tell you, we have a lot of troopers in our guild. Andy and I and most of the staff of RT and all of the staff of RT is welcome to play with us, but most of us do play in a relatively large guild. We're in the triple digits, so we have quite a few of all classes, and the majority of our troopers have taken armor mech, and it's understandable because most of the crafting skills where you can actually make something that's usable have bind on pickup, some very excellent, very high level bind on pickup items. So, although we wish there could be more diversity, if you're serious about being a Vanguard tank, armor mech's almost a no-brainer, and along with it, of course, scavenging and underworld trading. It's very cookie cutter. I'm not a huge fan of cookie cutter, but there's a reason certain things go together, and in this case, it goes together well. If you're a DPS, you can do the same thing with arms tech, and beyond that, if those couple of individual BOP pieces aren't a huge thing to you, go with whatever's most useful. We have a very high-level trooper who is bio and is kicking butt with all of the extreme buffs and med packs he can make. So
And the reusable med packs.
yes, yep, and
Which are you only.
and our best healer is also bio. One of our best players, who's also our most geared and most active healer currently, and she's kicking butt with bio too. So all I can say is there's no best. Be aware of what you want, and do a little research, and then make your choice.
Yeah, I decided to go with cyber just on the basis that gear, and because I used to be a blacksmith for many years in Warcraft, I didn't really want to repeat that experience, I guess. But I just think that gear is easy to get, relatively speaking. Armor and weapons, easy to get. Lots of ways to get it. But that implants and these permanently equipped stims or what we would call flasks they bring a lot more to the table if you're looking to the end game in operations and such.
And the other thing that I actually chose Cybertech myself just because pretty early on you get slottable gear, which upgrades as you put armor into them. And so really all you need to do is get those slottable things and create the mods for them with Cybertech. There's some mods you can't do, the enhancements and stuff with Cybertech, but the armor and the mods for the armor and all that stuff you can make with Cybertech. So that's why I went with that.
Yeah, cool. Okay, guys, I want to kind of cut this off here, not to stop a stimulating conversation, but we've kind of talked for a long time, and we are running out of time on today's show.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know. Oh no's. Real quick though, for everybody out there, we had heard from some people, and it was that we were actually flattered that people noticed. But our Lost Tales of the Old Republic is back. Tim has been actively working on Chapter 4, and all of Chapter 4 is actually now live on our website. And Tim is now working on Chapter 5 as well.
Yay, Tim!
I know, exactly, which will be coming up. Part 1 of Chapter 5 will be coming next week. So if you are a fan of Tim Bertram's fan fiction out there, Lost Tales of the Old Republic, it is back every Monday on RepublicTrooper.com. And one last quick thing, I want to give some shout outs for all of you out there who, especially RT staff and, active readers of the site. I'm sure people have noticed that the site has been growing a lot. There's a ton of new faces on our forums and our Twitter and our Facebook, and it's honestly, it's too many to name. It's like hundreds of people. So we just wanted to give everyone a big thank you for helping us build a really awesome community at Republic Trooper. All of us are very humbled and flattered that you guys even come to the website and opine the way you do and give us your feedback the way you do. And it's really cool. And, listen to our podcast and all that kind of stuff. So we're all definitely having a good time over here with it. So with that, I think I can hear some music fading in the background. So that means we have about 2 minutes left. Any final thoughts from anyone out here to close out the show?
Havoc Squad represent.
Yeah,
Represent! I will say, follow Andy's there. We salute you, every last one of you.
Troopers of the world, unite.
We love our readers.
There you go. All right, guys. So that'll do it for Combat Chatter Episode 7, our first episode of 2012 of the new year. Want to thank Mike Dave, Vicky, and Adam for hanging out with us on the show today. As always, thanks to everyone out there who gives us a listen. We really appreciate all the feedback, the comments, and you taking the time out of your day to listen to us ramble on about a video game. Until next time, you have been listening to Combat Chatter, the official podcast
About a what?
of RepublicTrooper.com about a video game.
Ramble on.
Exactly. We are out of here. Peace.
Peace.
Video what? You're saying my world is not real?
You've been listening to Combat Chatter, brought to you by RepublicTrooper.com. Join the community at www.republictrooper.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/RepublicTrooper, or on Twitter at RepublicTrooper. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time.
There are tons of little keys being pressed in the background while I'm talking. Anyway,
I know. Dude, I'm rusty. We haven't done this in like 5 weeks. Okay.
Take 12.
I thought that was the best you ever did, personally.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And it's what was I gonna say? I'm sorry.
Brain part. Blooper
Brain
reel.
fart.
It's okay. Just roll with it.
Sorry.
Is it like static or?
It's like
It sounds like a
static.
breeze blowing, a gentle
Yeah.
breeze.
I'm static.
Here, let me try reconnecting and coming
Andy, the mail bomb is in the mail. That's where I put it.
I know.
Mic back on.
I need to use some Charlie Sheen for Dave. I haven't used
Oh,
Charlie Sheen.
you're
in a while.
getting static now, or
Yeah,
you're
you
getting
sound like you're underwater.
you're getting robot voice again, Andy.
Damn.
I hate Skype.
All right, here. Let me do the same. I'll be right back.
Skype is a flaming
Fucking Skype.
pile